Grand Admiral. As you anticipated, the minefield was triggered by a pod of arriving Starwells. Among them was a D6 class Jedi shuttle.
It would seem Ahsoka Tano is alive and well after all.
Here is everything the Inquisitorial database had on her.
Her master was General Anakin Skywalker.
Yes.
You're certain there's only the one starship?
Correct, Grand Admiral. Our fighters have already engaged the target and pursued them into the debris field.
Withdraw the fighters.
Why not allow them to follow?
There's no need to waste our resources. Jedi are very good at hiding. They've been practicing that for years. However, we are getting to know our adversary, and if she's anything like her master, she'll be unpredictable, which is why we must control all variables. Put her on a path of her own choosing, so that no matter which direction she takes, we'll always be one step ahead of her.
The Jedi is there.
Captain Enoch, you have the coordinates. Open fire.
Something happened. What was it?
I don't know. Feeling.
What kind?
Familiar.
They found us!
Don't worry.
Hey guys, Bart here with Tully Television, and I want to thank all of you for stopping by, liking, commenting, sharing all that beautiful YouTube stuff. If you're a returning viewer, thank you for coming back. If you're a new viewer, I hope that we can earn that subscription. And to all the future viewers, I hope that you can learn something and enjoy our content here at Tully Television. I'm dealing with a virus at the moment, guys, which is causing me major congestion. So if I sound a little off, that's why. But today we're going to be getting into Ahsoka Episode 7 review, directed by Geta Vasant Patel. Of course, written and the show created by Dave Filoni. Stars, of course, Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. David Tennant as the voice of Hyung, the droid. Natasha Liv Bordizzo as Sabine Wren. Mary Elizabeth Winston as Hera Syndulla. Ray Stevenson as Baylon Skolls. Ivan Shenkhano as Avina, as Shin Hati. Diana Lee Insanto as Morgan. Eman Asfandi as Ezra Bridger. I'm sorry if I'm butchering any of these names. Hayden Christensen as Anakin. Paul Sun-Hyung Lee as Captain Carson Teva. Lars Mikkelsen as Thrawn. Nelson Lee as Senator Exano. And of course a little cameo by Anthony Daniels, C-3PO. Or at least his voice. I guess at this point, proceed at your own caution if you want to follow through with this review. But we do start off with General Syndulla, General Hera Syndulla in basically court, determining if she's going to get her power stripped or not of her general rank because of her supposed insubordination. And General Leia Organa comes to the rescue, of course, by sending C-3PO and stating that she gave the okay for Hera to do the mission that she was doing. There was a senator there. What was his name again? Senator Exano, played by Nelson Lee. He seemed very adamant about how this supposed Thrawn return is just masked by Hera's feelings and emotions about wanting to find her friend Ezra Bridger. He really was really going overboard on her, and even didn't want Leia's input on it at all, whether she approved this mission or not. He didn't want that administered into the court. Almost makes me feel like he is part of the Empire remnant that's around trying to bring back the Empire, but eventually we'll find out that's the First Order that comes back. Somehow Palpatine returned. So Hera gets a pass on this, despite some people's reservations about it. But she is telling Mon Mothma I think that's how you pronounce her name, that this threat is pretty legitimate, that Thrawn can come back. We do pick up with Ahsoka and Hyung, the droid, showing up finally where the space whales are kind of slowing down and entering the area where they need to go. And once they get there, they wind up entering a minefield in the orbit of the planet that Sabine Wren is on, and where Morgan and Baylon and Ezra is all at, whether on the ring and, that whole thing. They finally show up, and there's a minefield that they have to skirt around. The space whales wind up taking off because they're taking major damage because they're so large and they keep getting hit by these mines. It's obviously Thrawn trying to slow down Ahsoka's approach. He learns through the research that Morgan and everyone did for him that Anakin did train her. Before they slowed down and entered the atmosphere of where they needed to go, Ahsoka was doing some training, listening to an old Anakin audio recording and visual recording, and she says how she misses him so much, and kind of just being nostalgic about what could have been. And Thrawn winds up finding out later that Anakin was her mentor, so to speak. So he keeps this in mind because he's a brilliant tactician, and he uses those teachings, and anything that he feels he can use against you, he's going to use against you. It's not always by force, it's through his mind that he's the most powerful. And so Ahsoka and Hyung wind up being able to hide out a little bit, but Thrawn winds up finding out their location. He flushes them out, and in the meantime, Ahsoka is able to make an emotional connection with Sabine, and she winds up finding out where she is on the surface of this planet. And once they're flushed out, she decides to then go to meet up with Sabine and then figure out how to get home and hopefully find Ezra, you know what I mean? She's not sure, she doesn't know that Ezra has been found yet, Ahsoka meaning. We do then pick up with Sabine and Ezra, and we see that Ezra's filled in with the Battle of Endor and how the Emperor died and all this, and Sabine is really not telling Ezra about her thinking that Ahsoka's dead, how she found him or anything like that, or how they're even going to get home. She's being very tight-lipped about it. I will say that throughout this whole series, I find Sabine's character very annoying. I am not a big fan of this character for some reason. I like the actress. I'm not saying the actress is doing a bad job. I like her talent. It's just the actual character, the actual person of Sabine, I just find to be massively annoying and to be kind of, I don't know. I can't exactly put my finger on it. I'm just not a big fan of her. Ezra, I like, and maybe I'm missing out on something because of my lack of interaction with the Rebel show and this and that, but I like Ezra. I like Ahsoka, right? I think Thrawn's a great villain. So it's not so much that it's because of my lack of understanding of these characters. I just don't really feel a positive connection with Sabine. But I guess I'm feeling a feeling, and that is what matters, right? Towards this show and this character and stuff like that. As long as it elicits a response from someone, there's got to be something being done right, right? You know what I mean? So what winds up happening in the meantime of that, as Ahsoka's trying to find them, and as Sabine and Ezra is traveling with their turtle friends, so to speak, they wind up finding out also where Sabine is at. So they send Baylon and his Shinhati, his Padawan, so to speak. And once they find out where Sabine is at, he tells her to call in the coordinates, but tells her this is where their paths diverge, because he sees that her quest for power is leading her on a different direction than than where his path is leading. And he gives a great piece of advice to her, which he says, "Don't let your impatience to win dictate you, because then you'll always lose." And she seems to understand what he was saying. But we'll really see if it works out that way for her and where her path leads. We still are unsure of where Baylon lies, because when him and Ahsoka had a round 2 of a fight, it ended up basically being a draw, because Ha Young was still in the ship and he blasted near them, and that gave a chance for Ahsoka to go meet up with Sabine and Ezra and help them out. But Baylon didn't chase her, but he's not exactly helping Thrawn and his forces either. So his motivation still at this point is undetermined, and what his ultimate goal is. But I want to say, before I forget, this has been my favorite character out of the series. Rest in peace, Ray Stevenson. He did a great job with this character, and it's really a shame that we're really not going to see this character anymore in the future, because I think that this has been one of the better characters to come out of newer Star Wars lately. And when I say newer Star Wars, I mean the shows and the newer movies. I really like this character a lot, and it's kind of Ray Stevenson did a really wonderful job with this, and it's a shame we're not going to get to see him anymore in anything. Forget about, just Star Wars, but rest in peace, Ray Stevenson. You did a great job. This episode was very action-packed. I will say it was very action-packed. Shinhati confronts Ezra and Sabine, and Thrawn sends some gunner ships and stormtroopers to help her out, to take him out. Ezra did not want to take back his lightsaber, and he didn't want to use a blaster. He now says that the Force is his ally, and he uses a lot of Force moves during his fighting. And he seems to be very in tune with the Force. I wonder how long and how powerful his connection is with the Force at this point, because he's had so much time to tune into it, right? So I really like to see how that's explored in the future as well. I like Ezra. I may not know the full history of some of these characters, but I'm liking Ezra and what we can learn, how he's been training himself, and what the future holds for him as well. finally, Ahsoka, finally the grand reunion happens where Ahsoka is able to jump in and help Sabine and Ezra fight off everyone. And finally, Thrawn calls back his forces because he explains to Morgan that even though we did not defeat them in the way we wanted to defeat them, our main goal was accomplished, which is we wasted their time and they're not able to stop us now from packing up the rest of our supplies and leaving. That was the main goal, is to get back to where we need to go. So even though he didn't defeat them, he defeated them by wasting their time. And to him, that was satisfactory enough for right now because he knows what the immediate mission is, and he's playing the long game in the process. As the forces are getting called back, Shin Hati sits there, and she contemplates fighting all three of them, but decides not to. Ahsoka lends out her hand and says, I can help you if you want. You don't have to continue to do this. But she takes off as well. And Sabine is very happy that Ahsoka's alive. Ezra and Ahsoka embrace. Ezra asks Sabine, oh, so you thought she was dead and you didn't say anything? But Sabina's like, I'm glad she's not, you know what I mean? But it's still not told to Ezra how she got there. And I wonder if that's going to cause any issues for Ezra, knowing that she worked with in a way to find Thrawn. Like, she opened up this threat that didn't need to happen. And I wonder if he's going to have any thoughts about that. But we end on a high note with the reunion, and we're going to find out what happens in the last episode next week. We're going to find out what Baylon's final game is himself, and we're going to find out if Thrawn makes it back from his banishment, so to speak. And I'm sure they'll make it back to the known territory, because there is going to be a movie in which all this is going to wind up being Star Wars a la Avengers, and all these shows are going to come together. Boba Fett, Mandalorian, this show, Luke Skywalker, and all of them are going to be going against Thrawn most likely. That's where this path seems to be going. So I'm pretty sure Thrawn's going to make it back, and I'm going to assume that Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra sneak onto the hyperspace ring and make it back with them somehow. I'm assuming that's how it's going to go. But we only will find out next week at the last episode of this season. Again, I thought this episode was great, an 8.5 out of 10. Very action-packed, and it was good to see some of these characters that I have not been too familiar with in action, and it was a fun episode. You let me know down below what you think of Ahsoka Episode 7, and we'll wrap up this season next week, guys. We'll see how it all ends. But until next time, peace, Snookums.